Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavala Giri Gopi Janavala Giri Yashodanandana Braja Jana Yamuna Jira Manatari Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavala Okay, so the book, I'm reading from this book. Who doesn't... tu parles pas anglais? Tu comprends un petit peu? Okay, tout le monde comprend l'anglais? Good.
Oui, madame.
No, so I'm reading a wonderful book. Maybe you've seen the series of Siddhanta, the interview of Prabhupada. It's called Memories. There's 2 volumes printed. And different disciples, of course, at the time, who knew Prabhupada. So, it's short stories, so it's nice, you know. You don't have to know the whole history of ISKCON and other books. Huh?
I don't understand English.
Comment tu comprends, hein? Quelqu'un peut te traduire un peu, parce que sinon, je peux faire bilingue, mais ça prend trop de temps. Quelqu'un peut le traduire un petit peu, ou résumer? Non?
Si, c'est bon.
Je peux résumer autrement. Hein? Il n'y a pas personne qui est bilingue. Je lirai lentement, je parlerai lentement. Hein? Merci. Merci. Ben, moi, guirlandais, voilà. On fait un guirlandais chez les Chrétiens. So, because in French, un guirlandais means also to give the sauce. So, since last week, last Sunday was the Vyasa Puja of my Guru Maharaj, Lokanath Maharaj. So I'm going to read his memories, if you don't mind. Right? The disciple of Prabhupada, of course. Is his photo here when he was young Brahmachari. Okay, so I got... One morning, we were walking on Juhu Beach, it's in Bombay, while birds were flying overhead in perfect formation. These birds would fly in a line and make a U-turn all together. So I asked Prabhupada, how do these birds fly in a perfect formation? How do they communicate with each other? And Prabhupada's response was, They are not less intelligent like you are. Yeah, I make a little comment because, most scientists say it's instinct, But what is this instinct, It's Krishna in the heart. You tell them, do this, do that, go there, go there. Especially migration of birds, it's amazing. Prabhupada has a good sense of humor, also. Okay, another one. Prabhupada. Prabhupada gave instruction about bullock carts in September of 76 around Rajasthani when our Gauritai traveling Sankirtan party had come to Delhi. So devotees were traveling in buses, and distributing books in different parts of India. And Prabhupada said, take bullock carts. At that time, we had lost our big buses from Germany. These buses could only stay for so many months in India. And Amsaduta also had to return to Germany for some business. Amsaduta was the leader of this party. So I was left in charge of the traveling party. When Prabhupada realized that we had no mode of transportation, he called me to his quarters and said, "What about bullock carts? These big machines and vehicles always break down and require so much maintenance." Maybe he knew that I had a simple village background, and so came up with this new assignment of traveling from village to village in bullock carts. So that was the first instruction, and look at that, so we took it to Honeypot. I know his village, visited several times in Maharashtra, little village. He was used, like you go to India, now in villages you see so many bullock carts. And one day we'll have bullock carts again. When there's no more petrol, that would be a good thing. So Prabhupada chose the perfect person, because he was experienced in village life, bullock cart. So that was the beginning, the first bullock cart Padayatra, 84 to 86. And in fact, there's a book written, I wrote it together, and I can show it to you sometime. So it's a book written by this work from, it started from Dwarka on the west coast, Dwarka all the way down to South Peninsula, and all the way to Mayapur, it was about 16 months, and I forgot, 9,000 kilometers. And he arrived in Mayapur for the Mayapur Gopunan festival. So that was the beginning of bullock cart, and it's still going on today. And today they are the 7th tour of India. Of course, not the same bulls, not the same devotees. I would say bullocks, because bullocks means, oxen, they've been neutered. You cannot take a bull, you cannot tie it to a cart, it's too passionate. But once they are neutered, they are very peaceful and gentle animals. We have some here, So, more instructions for Prabhupada. So, we went to see Srila Prabhupada, the party, ready to go on the road. The day we started our bullock cart Sankirtan from Vrindavan to Mayapur. We wanted him to give an inaugural speech and some further instructions. Since it was winter, he told us that we should all have 2 blankets. He also said our cars should have rubber tires, not wooden ones. And he said that when we go to the village, we should park next to the
well.
Temple?
The well.
well. Why? Well answered. Why go next to the well?
Because everyone will come there for when they need water.
It's the center of the village, Everybody has to go to the well to get water, to get clean. So that's the good place to be, best place to be. So you need to go to them. You don't need to go to them. They will come to you. They will come to you if you are next to the well. He said, the well water will help you to be suchi, to be clean. The Those were his instructions. He also explained how Mahatma Gandhi had failed. Sorry. Mahatma Gandhi had tried to keep people in the villages by stressing village industry and being happy with whatever resources were available within a 5-mile radius, about 10 kilometers, you know. You have to be happy with 10 kilometers circle. He was good, Prabhupada said, but what was lacking was the spirituality which would satisfy the people's souls and enable them to be happy with the bare minimum facilities. So I give, Prabhupada, Gandhi's program was great, but there was something missing, obviously, Prabhupada said. And you see, a lot of people went to the city and to work in horrible factories or to end up eating garbage and living in the streets. We see a lot of them in India still. So Prabhupada, he gave us a task. He said, go to the villages and try to increase their attraction to the holy names so that they have a higher taste. Then, wherever they are, they will stay there. These were some of the instructions the day we started. And in fact, we have Lokanath Maharaj started a temple in Aravati, it's a whole village, and it's a beautiful temple. It's still visited. The school from all the area, it's in Maharashtra, but I don't know, east of Bombay, but quite some way. It's a big state, Maharashtra. So there's a temple, beautiful Hare Krishna temple with a little museum, and there's visitors, the local became devotees, many devotees, and then school buses, different visitors. So that was the instructions of Prabhupada, and it works, But we can say many things about the situation of farmers in India. It's still not very wonderful all the time because you got Monsanto, Monsanto who sold them some seeds that they cannot, they cannot reproduce, so that they get stuck there to buy seeds again. The farmers get in debt, and they get in debt, and they buy tractors, and they have to
hybrid seeds.
Huh?
Hybrid seeds.
What?
Hybrid.
Des graines hybrides.
So yeah, and maybe you've seen that there's been lots of suicides of farmers in India because they couldn't pay their debt. But the simple formula, simple living and high thinking, use oxen, oxen. What the ox needs, just the grass, and some water and some affection and some engagement. So Prabhupada had the right vision. So that, see, Lokanath Swami speaking, I had been 2.5 years in the movement when I asked Prabhupada if I could take sannyas. Sannyas means like the renounced order of life, you just, those who were married, they're not married anymore, their wife goes someplace else. And usually it's after, the family is raised, the children are raised. But some devotees never got married, so they were renounced. So Prabhupada said, wait. I waited for 1 year and again approached him. This was around the time that Prabhupada had asked Srila Swami, my colleague in Bombay, to go to Vrindavan for his sannyas initiation. When Prabhupada heard that I wanted to take sannyas, his first response was, you are already a sannyas. Renounced. When I was not satisfied, he started to explain the first verse of the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Quote, one who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. Prabhupada explained how the verse defines sannyas. But I was not budging an inch. I was keeping some pressure on. He said, so you want to undergo the formality of sannyas? I said, yes, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, you also go with Srila and meet me in Vrindavan. This was in December 75. So Srila and I both jumped on the train. Prabhupada had gone with Ambarish and Savita, Gopal Krishna and Arigeshwari to Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra, you know what happened in Kurukshetra? Anybody there? The big battle, that's where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. And the middle of a huge battle. So when they returned from Kurukshetra, Prabhupada gave us sannyas in the courtyard of the Krishna Balaram temple. Yes, I read. If somebody has little questions or comments, you know, on the different the topics we talk about, feel free to say something. Merci. So after the sannyas initiation ceremony for Sridhar Maharaj, Prithuputra from France and I went into Srila Prabhupada quarters to check two things: whether our names were going to change and whether we had new assignments. Prabhupada said, just add Swami to your name. Swami means one who controls his senses. So, you know, because the sannyas are supposed to control their senses and their mind, everybody is supposed to. So he didn't change our assignment. Then he talked to us about Man Mana Bhava Man Bhakto, Man Jagi, Man Namas Kuru. This is Bhagavad Gita 9:34. So Krishna is asking us to do 4 things. Man Mana, what is that?
Always think of me.
Okay, we remember Krishna. Bhava, Bhava, worship me. Mad Bhakto, become a devotee. Mad Jayi, Mam Namaskuru. Offer your obeisances unto me and become my devotee. Prabhupada, if you just do these 4 things without duplicity, then your preaching will be effective. And people will take you very seriously. This was his instruction in the personal meeting he gave us. You see, the sannyas, usually they have a stick called a danda, but they don't always carry it, it's not always practical. But it's a sign of it's three rods and the cloth around. It means you surrender your body, mind, and words, everything to Krishna, you know. And it's a warning, you know, for potential women who like to be interested in getting married. Sannyas, no, it's finished, you know. It's finished principle, you know. Because we had some sannyas who couldn't maintain, which we cannot blame them. They were very young, you know. I mean, young, immature, but you know, it was Prabhupada wanted. Then, because you know, when you have a family, it gets complicated, right? Family, kids, yeah. You have to take care of the family and maintain and find matrimony and money. So, you know, when they're free or single, it's easier to travel and preach, especially at the beginning of the movement. You know. Now it's more serious to take sannyas. Young people cannot take sannyas. They have to prove they've been, steady for years and renounced, and you know. So it's not like at the beginning. And now they don't, I don't know how problem because they are fixed, Because the sannyas, are the leaders, spiritual leaders. And usually a lot of sannyas become guru, but you don't have to be a sannyas to become a guru. There's a lot of, quite a few married devotees who are sannyas. We don't have ladies gurus yet. It's in the air. It's been in the air since 10 years. Discussion and controversy, but there's some very qualified women, Vaishnavi. They're already teaching. And they have some followers, but it takes a little time in ISKCON. But the main thing is qualification. It's if you are qualified, that's it, It's not a question of your body. And we have some tradition in ISKCON, some great Vaishnavis who had disciples. Anyway, that's for the future. And there was a parenthesis. Let's see. Okay, so another one. We were in Badarik Ashram in North India, it's in the Himalayas, when we heard that Prabhupada in Vrindavan was getting sicker. It was in 77, he was ready to quit his body, So we rushed back to Vrindavan. Soon after our arrival there, we were allowed to go into his quarters for darshan, to see him. And we spent quite some time with him. He was lying on the bed. For months he had been on the bed, but he was very enthused by our Sankirtan reports. He inquired, which book is selling the most? What is your daily connection? As we had just returned from Badrikashram, in a humorous way I said, Srila Prabhupada, we presented our Bhagavad Gita as it is to Srila Vyasadeva. So for those who don't know, Srila Vyasadeva is the incarnation of God, avatar, who literary incarnation of God. He's the one who wrote the Vedas, because first they were in oral form, People had such a memory, they heard it one time, you could remember. Now you have a book, you have to remember to open the book. So that's another thing. So, he said, so he's supposed to live, this Srila Vyasadeva still lives in a cave. It's been more than 5,000 years ago. Amazing, but possible. God can do anything. So we did not see Vyasadeva. He was, in spiritual form, but carried Bhagavad Gita with us. And we imagined that Srila Vyasadeva saw it. So I said, we presented you Bhagavad Gita to Srila Vyasadeva. Prabhupada smiled. Yeah, in India, many holy places, So some sages still be living since thousands of years. Okay, that's why I went to next type here. Okay. Anyway, there's my page. Okay. Oh, that was the last one. Sorry, the confusion. Yeah, I'm going to read from another book, The Memories of Lokanath Swami, my Prabhupada. And there's many books written about the life of Prabhupada. But by, there's films, there's interviews, books, and translated in so many languages. So there's a whole shelf, I have in my house. I have a whole shelf. We have one in French, condensed. Most of them are in English, a lot of them have been translated, but it's very inspiring to read the life and words and action, example of a pure devotee, especially the founder Acharya of International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So Prabhupada, he left his body, as we said, in 77, shortly after the visit of Lokanath Maharaj to Vrindavan. He left his body and But his movement continued. He gave instruction. He said that main one, he said, if you love me, cooperate, show your love for me by cooperating. And we know it's not always easy, right? To cooperate. Then we have different ways of looking at them. Okay, so I'm reading from this book, My Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada's motto is simple living and high thinking. The highest thinking is that which comes from Krishna. God shared his thoughts with his devotee Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Srila Prabhupada is the embodiment of those instructions of Bhagavad Gita spoken by the Lord. He dedicated his life for preserving and propagating the thoughts of God by presenting Bhagavad Gita as it is. So, Bhagavan is a name for God, Krishna, the one who possesses all opulences, all intelligence, all power, all beauty, all knowledge, all renunciation.
Strength.
All strength, I say all humor also, I'm going to answer, because Krishna has all qualities. So, all strength, of course, he can lift a big hill with his little finger. And he can make planets, huge planets float in the sky, in the air, in the space. So, it's pretty amazing. By the powers of Krishna. So, Prabhupada, the pure devotee, you can say is the embodiment, Bhagavat. So Bhagavat, the one who personifies, embodies all these, not as a great person, but as a servant, As a servant, A great devotee never thinks that I'm so great, It's very humble. So Prabhupada was really exemplary. That's how he won the hearts of his disciples, They saw his love, how he really cares for them, And they could see how he lived, There was nothing hidden, He didn't have a public life, a private life. No, he was always living with his disciples. And that's what's wonderful, the record, Imagine the Christians, if they could see film of Jesus Christ, wow, it'd be amazing, They hardly know what he looks like, What he said, there's still some controversy. It's not clear, but it's like... Anyway, Srila Prabhupada often said, let Krishna speak for himself. As Krishna's transparent representative, Srila Prabhupada delivers the thoughts of God without change. No speculation. He always gives credit to the Lord, never taking credit for himself. So one time, because devotees saw Prabhupada reading his own books, They said, well, you're reading your own books, you know what's in them? He said, no, I didn't write these books. Krishna wrote them. Krishna. So one devotee, Rameswar, at the time said, yeah, because he got inspired. Prabhupada said, no, Krishna was present there. He dictated to me personally the Bhaktivedanta purpose. So you see, Prabhupada is no ordinary person, no ordinary devotee. Krishna himself told him what to do, what to write. And Prabhupada always gave credit to the Lord, and also to his own spiritual master. So that's not like I'm so great. His spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, asked him to spread Krishna consciousness in English. To fulfill that desire, Srila Prabhupada wrote books in English. As his family of disciples grew around the world, Srila Prabhupada expanded his spiritual master order by instructing his followers to print books as in many languages as possible. So now, how many? About 90 languages, at least. So always so many languages, all parts of the world, Russian, Chinese, I don't know if they have in Korean, probably, Even the most remote places, the most aesthetic French, of course, we have so many books. Because the books would stay, Books would stay. And like the Russian devotees at the beginning, they had only one Bhagavad Gita in English, because Prabhupada came to Moscow in 76, I think. 76, it was the time of the iron.
72.
Huh?
It was in 72.
Of the 72? Okay. Iron Curtain. So you were not supposed to bring any religious book. And religion was really forbidden, not well considered, to say the least. So, but Prabhupada came on a visit. He was invited by a professor, Professor Kotovsky. He was studying the Vedas somehow. But he was not supposed to in public, he was just supposed to meet him privately. But one day, Prabhupada, he had a servant cooking for him, with whatever he could find in the store at the time. There was hardly anything to eat, So he had to go all over Moscow, to find a few potatoes, a few vegetables, little milk. But one day this devotee was dressed with a dhoti, imagine, and a red square, wow, noticeable. And by Krishna's arrangement, this devotee, Shema Sundar, met an Indian, an Indian person who was the son of a diplomat, and also with a young Russian person named Anatoly. And of course, Shema Sundar talked to him and invited them to meet Prabhupada. So they went to the hotel.
They asked him, "Have you got any Beatles records?"
Yeah.
And he said, "No, but my guru, the guru of the Beatles, is just staying in the hotel. Let's go and see him."
Exactly, Yeah, the guru of the. He was the guru of. What's his name?
George Harrison.
I have a hole in my brain. Of George Harrison, George Harrison was not initiated, but he was a disciple by the Srila Prabhupada. So they went to the hotel to meet Prabhupada, and this young Russian was very open, very open. He was like swallowing everything Prabhupada said. And they came another time, so.
Prabhupada said, "Come back the next day," and for 3 days he taught him everything, and then Prabhupada gave him his own Bhagavad Gita and told him to translate it into Russian.
I was going to say that, but thank you much. Yeah, translated into Russian, and the first Russian Bhagavad Gita, have you seen them? They were small, they were the size of this size, because at the time it was illegal to print any religious book, and then people were copying them. So the movement in Russia is from one person. You can see the potency of Prabhupada, one person. There were hundreds of devotees, and of course, then repression came, they were arrested, they were put in jail, labor camps, psychiatric hospital, and Ananta Shanti, Anatoly became Ananta Shanti. I met him in Vrindavan one day. He was in psychiatric hospital, very hard treatments. Some died, some devotees died. There's a book called Salted Bread. Have you read it? Oh God, you have to read it. Salted bread. What? Salted bread means bread with little salt. That's all they had to eat because they were vegetarian. They couldn't eat meat and all this stuff, and the vegetables mixed with the meat. So that's all they ate. Salted bread to survive. So anyway, eventually we had a big campaign, Free the Soviet Hare Krishna. I was leading in San Diego with Mukunda Maharaj. We had big demonstrations all over the world, and finally Gorbachev let our friends go. They were freed. They were freed. The laws changed. Things got glasnost. Things got cooler. They had temples and big festivals. I mean, you go to India. When I go to India, a lot of devotees talk to me in Russian. There's so many Russian devotees. It happened to you? No, I'm always scared in French, because there's so many Russian devotees, so you can say. And they were hungry for God, because this communists, never made anybody happy. Go to North Korea. Anyway, so distributing books, printing books, distributing books, we're still doing it, you see. We just announced the book schools, because we have to give knowledge, give knowledge. During his lifetime, Prabhupada expressed satisfaction with the expansion of the Krishna consciousness movement. He did not take ISKCON growth as his personal doing, but he saw it as the grace of Lord Chaitanya and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He would freely state how wonderful it was that Krishna consciousness was spreading. Hey, it was really. Prabhupada went to America first, New York City. He went with a little bag of zero, few rupees, $1 or $2, and his first book, first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. And a strong, indomitable faith in Lord Chaitanya and the instruction of his spiritual master. Because imagine coming from a little holy place, Vrindavan, to New York City, crazy city. Anyway, Prabhupada, he had very humble beginning, something, almost lived in the street. But Prabhupada never gave up, and little by little, some people came. In the little temple, they heard him, and they became totally devoted, became initiated. And then from after New York, they went to different cities, San Francisco, and then to Montreal, and then Prabhupada sent devotees to Paris also. Little by little, expanded, and even asked one devotee to go to China at the time. Okay, well, there was a little problem. Okay, you go to China. Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he was successful. So once Prabhupada was sitting in his garden in Vrindavan, talking with a British disciple, who said that he was a great grandson of Lord Macaulay. He was a leader during the British occupation of India. Yeah, the British occupied India for how many years? 150 years. First it was like commercial, but they really wanted to conquer India, and to destroy the culture there, how did they start it? How did they do that? They understood that the culture was the Brahmana and the importance of the Brahmana and cow protection. So they started to introduce slaughterhouses, to destroy. And then, there were some scholars who put down Vedic literature, and that's, Bhaktivinoda Thakur who established. So there were some great spiritual leaders who established the validity of Krishna consciousness, And eventually the British were kicked out. It was Gandhi, but it was also Subhash Bose with his army, It's not only Gandhi with the non-violent movement. See, the British did so much. They were cutting the big finger of the hands of the weavers, so they would not weave their own cloth, so they had to buy the cloth produced in England. Everywhere where people invade another country and want to take advantage of it, establish their own, we've seen lots of violence. So anyway, the British, there was one time saying the sun never sets in the British Empire. And Prabhupada joked, now the sun, when he went in London, never rises in the British Empire. Anyway, the Indians, they kept English, a lot of Indians speak English. And of course, they also did some good things, the railroads, what else? Did some good things. So, the sun never sets in the British Empire. And Prabhupada applied it to Krishna consciousness. He said that practically no materialistic industrialist could have as many branches as he had in ISKCON. Even if he were to stay only 3 days in each one of these temples, he wouldn't have time in the year to do it. The temple, and it happened very quickly, Prabhupada made such transcendent boast to to show people that Krishna consciousness was no trifle. Jokingly, Prabhupada told the British disciple that he wondered, if the sun never set on the British Empire, why does it never rise in London? It would always come. One time a reporter asked him, I forgot that he said, "You believe in hell?" There was hell. Yeah, London is hell. What hell? No sun,
Be
damn.
careful then.
Actually, that quote, which you have correctly said, is about the weather.
Yeah.
Prabhupada called London hell because of the weather.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
came in November, and it was the worst day.
Yeah.
And it's very dark at that time of year. But a lot of people come through London and they say Prabhupada said London was hell in the other way. But actually, it was only about the weather.
Yeah, it's only about the weather, exactly. It's
That's what he
good
meant it.
Yeah, it's not,
I mean, I've been to a lot of cities in the world, and
Yeah,
London
better,
is
yeah.
not,
Otherwise,
it's not,
Yeah,
it's not hellish.
things can get distorted, if we're not very specific. Okay. Let's see, maybe, I don't know. So you want to add something?
The Gurukuls, the British, Lord Macaulay. See, when the British first went to India in the 1600s, 1700s, they thought it was wonderful. And at that time, the people were much more open, and they were very, very impressed. And then, in the time of Queen Victoria, there was a Christian evangelical revolution in England. All these big scholars, so they started to say that Britain was a culture of Christianity, and this India was demoniac devil worshippers and that. So they then changed and started to attack Vedic culture, which previously they were very impressed with. Who wouldn't be? When they went to India, it blew everyone's mind how wonderful it was. So they attacked the Gurukuls. There was 700,000 Gurukuls in India. And
7?
Gurukuls,
Yeah.
schools,
Yeah.
Vedic schools. So they tried to bring in Western education. And this is what ruined India. The closing of the Gurukuls.
Yeah, Western education. It's a long story. There's a wonderful book written by Devamita Swami. What's the title? Vedic, about the story of
when the West loved India or something like that.
Huh? No.
When the West loved India, something
That's
like that.
another book. Anyway, as you said, it was wonderful. The
Wonderful.
first one. But there were some scholars really appreciated.
Yeah.
But then, they changed.
Changed, yeah.
It's
200 years later, it changed. Very
Yeah, of
fast.
course, India was wonderful. It was rich, opulent.
There was also a lot of abuse and the fake brahmanas in India also, and the British tried to stop them. There's not only
Stop
that.
what?
You should also consider the positive side of the British in India, where the fake brahmanas was abusing, and the British tried to stop all these abuse.
Yeah, like sati, the British. Sati, it's in the scriptures, the chief's wife, when her husband died, she's so attached to him and so faithful that she's going to jump on the funeral fire. But a few of them, I don't know how many, but were pushed in the fire, because some financial, for different reasons, So the British stopped it, and there's still some, I think there's still a few maybe, but hardly any sati, especially nowadays, women jumping, you don't see, there's not many men worthy of their wife jumping in the fire. Right, that's the other side of it, It's like, anyway.
Well, can you, Robin, you can think of another example. The British, they did some good things like that. They didn't want these fake gurus and, what's it called?
There's many things, but
Can you think of one more?
not here.
Yeah, I have this book, I can lend it to you, the book of Devamita Swami, Searching for Vedic India. It's really very interesting and very accurate, the whole history of the British came and trying to take over, how they got, Yeah, there was, it's not one, like There was different periods, different influences, you know.
Some good, some bad.
Huh?
Some good, some bad. I'm asking you. Some good, some bad? I'm asking a question.
My ears are not good. I can put my ear down. What is the question?
You tell her in French.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a de bien et de mal? Qu'est-ce qu'il y a eu de bien et de mal?
Oh, yeah. It's a word of duality, you know. Anyway, read the books about Prabhupada. There's so many. This one, I don't think he did a third volume. Have you seen the series of Siddhanta?
Still going on.
Huh?
It's still going on.
It's still going on. Oh yeah, it's still going on. I got to go on the internet again, you know. I've been disconnected for 2 years. Yeah, it's still going on, you know. There's still some disciples of Prabhupada, you know, and it won't last for long. So, Hare Krishna,
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana ki. Jai. Hare Hare. Forget things, you know.
Yeah.
Oh.
Can you stop?
Yeah,